Okay, guys. Today's our topic of discussion is clinical research, right? Speaking, if you want to simplify this term clinical research, so it's nothing but a study or searching for the things which we don't know. Like we can say in simple terms, clinical research might be a study of health or illness in people or in animals, or we can say this is the approach how we learn to prevent the disease conditions or to diagnose the disease conditions or to treat the disease conditions, right? So in clinical research generally we'll find the things which we don't know, right? It can be not only about the drugs, it can be about the disease mechanism, means the pathophysiology. Like take example of your hypertension, how hypertension will happen. Take example of your tuberculosis, how it happens, right? So ethical research is about finding the things, searching for the things which you don't know, to improvise the life of the people, to improvise the life of the people and the life expectancy of the people, right? So so when we see the why I kept this question mark here is, so most of the people will be having an idea, will be having a doubt, right? So what is clinical research, what is clinical research? And they'll be having some knowledge based upon today's Google and certain newsletters and newspapers. Some clinical trials has been started, or something is happening, or something like that. So why I kept this one is, so most of the people, according to some surveys, like certain review articles, what they said, when we ask engineering people, or who is not from science background, they will be having a thing of clinical research means something they will do on human beings, and they will come to know what is what, whether the drug is useful in humans or not, or something like that. But so when we say clinical research, there are different parts. It is a pool of knowledge which we cannot complete in anyone's life. We cannot read 100% about this one, right? And in simple terms, it is about a study of something which you don't know, right? So when we say clinical research and clinical trials, these are two different things. Don't get confused. Clinical research and clinical trials, right? So clinical trials is a part or a type of clinical research, right? Clinical trials are a part of clinical research, right? So I am saying, you see, clinical trials are those things when it will start using the drug on human beings. But to make that drug, or to identify or to develop the drug or that molecule, we need some other things also, right? For that we have to develop the drug, right? So the drug development, drug discovery, drug development, and usage, use in human beings, and into the market, even after the drug in the market, checking the safety of the drug. So everything will come at clinical research, right? So coming to definition, so we have a number of definitions from different organizations. So we will see what are two among those things which will be best used, right? So clinical research can be defined as a study of drugs, biologicals, vaccines, or devices in human subjects with the intent to discover potential beneficial effects and or determine its safety and efficacy. It means we are going to study about the drugs or biologicals or vaccines or devices. So drugs means, tablets or capsules or syrups, whatever it may be. Biological means we have antigens, antibodies is there, all those preparations which were taken from human beings and all those things. And vaccines means like polio vaccine, tetanus vaccine, all those things. And devices means nowadays we will say about we are hearing about robotic surgery, right? There the machine will do the surgery which is operated by human being, right? Take example of x-ray machine. When you go for x-ray, the technician will operate a machine to take an x-ray, right? So that is a device. So before using that x-ray device, the human beings or general people, right, the organization like research centers or WHO, in India like ICMR, DCGI, CDSCO. So they will be performing certain experimental things on certain volunteers, so that that X-ray machine was safe for the patient, or that MRI machine or CT scan machine was appropriate for the patient. So they'll be checking for the things before using to the general public in a vast population. They'll use in animals, then they'll use in a limited number of people, then they'll release into the market, right? So like this, we have another definition from other organization, like how they describe clinical research is, Clinical research is a branch of healthcare science that determines the safety and effectiveness of medications, devices, machines, treatment regimens for intended to use in humans, right? And this thing can be used to prevent, treat, diagnose, or relieve the symptoms of the disease. See, whatever the definition, the key point is same. It will be used. It is a study of the drugs or any other things which we are going to use in human beings. Before using a vast population of human beings, we'll be doing certain experiments, certain studies on limited number of people to find out the effectiveness of it. That is nothing but your clinical research, right? So as we cannot go with the entire clinical research, so what we'll do is we'll stick to your curriculum. So we have two topics to be discussed here, two chapters, right? So the first one here is drug development process. Drug development process means before clinical trials or before preclinical trials, like before using the drugs in humans or before using the drugs in animals. So what they will do, they have to develop a molecule, they have to develop a drug. And remember, guys, so take example of your paracetamol. It's a one tablet which costs less than 5 rupees each tablet, right? Okay. So to sell that one tablet or one compound in market, the organizations or the research institutes or central laboratories, they'll prepare almost 10,000 molecules at the earlier stage. Out of those 10,000 molecules, only one molecule will reach the market. In certain instance, what happens, even out of the 10,000 molecules, one molecule it won't reach the market. Nowadays we see so many drugs which have been banned from the market, right? Okay, like glitazones, some of glitazones are some of drugs, so many other things, mostly used drugs also, like some of the glitazones are which are mostly used for diabetes also, some of those are get banned, right? Take example of this thalidomide disorder, thalidomide thing which happened in 1960s, right? So even after performing the thing, even after the drug proved to be safe, after marketing they said it was a problem, it will be a problem if you use the drug, so they stopped using the drug in the market, right? So like that. So first, in detail about the drug development process, we will see in upcoming classes. For now, we will see what are the various approaches. If you can see here, various approaches of drug discovery. Right. First one is pharmacological approach. The name itself indicates pharmacology means mechanism of action of the drug or use of the drug, like that. Right. So here we will be seeing the mechanism of action of the drug and efficacy of the drug. That is the first approach, right? And second approach is toxicological approach, means the name itself toxicology means toxic effect, means what is the maximum permeable dose, maximum dose limit in a individual per day or per one dose, means after crossing which dose it will be a problem. Like take example of paracetamol. So the maximum dose of paracetamol per day in a in a person who don't have liver problem is 4 grams per day. That's the maximum. After 4 grams, it leads to hepatotoxicity, right? Okay, like that is the toxicological thing. And next one is investigational new drug application, means so once you're done with pharmacological approach and toxicological approach after dealing using the drug in vitro, in vivo, or in animal models, right? You will submit application for investigational new drug. We call it as IP, investigational product or investigational new drug application. So once you're done with this two approaches, pharmacology, toxicological, you will submit a IND application to the concerned authorities. Like if you see in India, we have ICMR, DCGA, or CDSCO, right? So like that. So if you go to US, you have FDA. If you go to Europe, you have EUDRACIT or you have EMEA, European Trade Association, like that. Okay. So we'll be submitting the application. Okay. So once they think your product is new and innovative and novel, then they'll approve it. Okay. And next one is drug characterization, right? So what is drug characterization? It's about nothing but a character of a drug. Means it is a solid dosage form, liquid dosage form, semi-solid, or syrups, right? So whenever we see why we have to read about the drug characterization is, see, some drugs are lipophilic, right? Some drugs are hydrophobic. So we have BCS classification in pharmaceutics, like high soluble, high permeable, low soluble, low permeable, high soluble, low permeable, low permeable, four classifications, right? So in this drug characterization, we'll divide the drug into one of those four characteristics. Then we will see their stability and the storage conditions. And when you see certain drugs, certain syrups in amber color, not clear color. Amber color means certain brown color bodies you'll get for syrup. So they'll be written, don't expose to sunlight, keep in cool and dry place. Means if it expose to sunlight or light directly, it will go for denaturation of the product. Okay, so we have to see the character of the drug, right? Whether it's hydrophilic, lipophilic. Supposing if the drug is hydrophilic, it's not lipophilic. So what happens? It cannot penetrate the certain layers. At the time, what happens? The effectiveness won't be there, right? So for that, if the drug is hydrophilic, it's not lipophilic. What they will do? They will add certain combinations to that molecule so that it can penetrate, like the chelation technique. So what in chelation technique they will do? They will add the drug in a hydrophilic, lipophilic molecule, so that that molecule enter into the lipid bilayer. After entering inside, the hydrophilic molecule release into the thing, into the cellular system, it will show its action. Right? That's the importance of reading about the characterization. And next one is dosage form, like to see the stability and standard of the drug. So this drug is hydrophilic, or we can say hydrophobic, right? Okay, okay, this formulations is there. Okay, this drug is best suitable for liquid dosage form. This molecule is best suitable for solid dosage form. This drug is best suitable for semi-solid dosage form, like creams, ointments, gels, those kind of things, right? So by seeing these dosage forms, which dosage form is better for which molecule, right? We'll be having a better therapeutic equivalent outcome and storage facilities. So take example, if you see the antibiotics, like take example of ceftriaxone. So when you see ceftriaxone 1 gram injection, so what they will do, they don't give the solution, right? They'll give a powder in a bottle, glass bottle, and they'll give water for injection, right? So what you have to do, you have to mix that powder, you have to mix the water into the powder, then you have to give injection at the time of giving injection. Why? Because that powder, it won't stay longer time in a liquid dosage form, right? So what they will do, they can powder and water for injection for you. So whenever you are going to give the drug to the injection to the patient, you have to reconstitute the drug. Means you have to mix the water for injection with the given sufficient quantity of water with the drug dose, means in the powder. Then you have to give the injection, right? So that is the importance of finding out the dosage form characteristics, or which dosage form is suitable. Like take example of your this one. Suppose think some drugs, right? Some drugs, some tablets are entry coated. Why? Because the drug is not stable in stomach environment. So what they will do, they'll be entry coated, so that once the tablet crosses the gastric environment and stomach environment, when it reaches the duodenum or intestine, then it has to show the action, right? So that's about dosage form. So this is about your first thing, drug development process. Here we have a molecule with us to use in human beings, right? So that is second one, clinical development of drug. So in this thing, we'll read from usage of drug in human beings, and after using, after completing 4 phases, the application process, and while conducting clinical research, what are the different aspects we have to see, like patient safety, drug novelty, and all those things. Who are the people who plays a role in clinical trials and the development of drug? All those things will be dealing here. Clinical development of the drug. So first one is a clinical trials introduction. As we know, clinical trials are a part of, or a type of clinical research, where we'll be performing certain studies on human beings. Okay, so before it comes to human beings, is something we call as preclinical trials. Okay, so in preclinical trials, what they will do, they will have a drug. So from pharmacological approach and toxicological approach, they'll be having certain data. Okay, this drug or this dose of drug is safe in animals. So what they will do, they will start with the lowest possible dose to show the therapeutic effect in animals. So once they complete those trials in animals, they'll be having an idea. Okay, so this was the lowest or safe dose in animals. So that dose molecule, they will extrapolate to the human dose molecules, right? If zero point 0.5 is suitable for animals, how much a human can take as a safe dose, right? They'll extrapolate it. Okay, so we have preclinical trials and clinical trials. Okay, so before using in human beings, we will use in animals. So we'll see introduction to clinical trials. How much money, you don't believe, guys, for completing one for launching for successfully completing one molecule into the market, how much, how much we have to spend? 3 billion US dollars. No, 3 billion US dollars we have to spend. Leave about money, you have to spend almost 12 to 15 years of time for completing the drug development and the drug discovery and clinical drug development. It is not that easy, and we'll be saying this drug is not good. Yeah, see, even after completing spending 15 years of time and 3 billion US dollars of amount, also some drugs won't survive, or they won't get success in the market because of side effects and all those things, right? So we'll see about clinical trials introduction, and next one we'll see about phases of clinical trials, phase 0 to 4. Nowadays we have phase 5 also, but we don't have exact clear this one about it, so we'll avoid that one. So we'll start with phase 0 to 4. Generally we'll say we have 4 phases, 1 2 3 4, but we have something called as phase 0 also, right? That we will see. Phase 0 means 1 by 100 of the pharmaceutical dose, means therapeutic dose. Supposing if 100 mg is extrapolated dose to humans, 1 by 100th of the 1 by 100th of that 1 gram, or that 100 mg will be used in phase 0. Yeah, phase 0 will be done in human beings only. Okay, so this is about phase 0 to phase 4. So in detail about all these things we'll discuss in upcoming days. So post-marketing surveillance methods means, so once the drug is into the market, see, in case of clinical trials, so what happens means phase 1 to 3, what happens? We'll be doing only in a limited number of people. Like supposing in phase 1, we'll be taking healthy volunteers in 10 to hundreds. Phase 2 will be performing in only one disease condition, human beings without any comorbidities. Okay, in hundreds, means 100 to 200, 300, 400, like that. In phase 3, you will be using a person who is having disease and 1 or 2 comorbidities, right? So maybe in thousands, means 1,000 or 700, 800,000, like that, right? When it comes to post-marketing surveillance or phase 4, it means the drug is in the market. So when the drug is in the market, we don't have any control on the drug, right? Like in these 3 phases, we have only limited characteristic people, right? So without disease, with disease, and without disease, or 1 or 2 comorbidities. Once the drug is into the market, see, the patient, we don't know how many comorbidities is there for the patient, or how many disease conditions is also there for the patient, right? So like that, once the drug is in the market, it won't be in control. So what they will do, even after completing 3 phases, even though the drug got approval for marketing in wide variation people means and wide range of people, they'll be doing a study with certain methods like cross-sectional quad studies and all those kind of studies. They'll be getting a feedback of it. They will be getting a feedback of it, right? So what happened when you got a feedback of it? Take example of your this one. What is this? We call it as uh, a drug which they have used in market in 1960s, in 1950, in late 1950s and 1960s, to cure the sickness in the morning sickness or morning vomiting in pregnant women, right? So after using the drug, the morning sickness has been reduced, fine, but the children to whom they given birth, they have a rare condition called as phocomelia or sea limbs disorder. How they came to know that there is a side effect, a radiator of the drug? By using doing this post-marketing surveillance. Same thing when you take these glitazones, rosiglitazone and pioglitazone for diabetes. So after using certain days, they found out that in the post-marketing surveillance, they found that there is a complications to CVS when you use this drug. So they have banned it, and one of those glitazone has been released in the market again for the usage, right? And take newest example like your ranitidine, H receptor blocker. So ranitidine and PPS are most widely used whenever there is antibiotic, there is some other drug they used to give this one, right? So a recent survey, not recent survey, recently the organizations, government organization has been told that ranitidine is having a chance of causing cancer. You have to stop using the drug. So that is a post-marketing surveillance thing. Means it has been happened over years, but that is also post-marketing surveillance, right? And next one is abbreviated new drug application. So abbreviated new drug application means it's about the generic drugs, right? So previously we have seen one application, investigational new drug application, right? So that is a new product which has been launched by a company or launching by a company. Abbreviated means, so nowadays the government is saying use generic drugs, right? So this is a generic drug means a different drug where they don't perform that much experiments on a drug for using the drug. So what they will do, they will take a drug which has been invented by the investigator company or founder company. They will take that molecule. They don't perform clinical trials. They'll just do the bioequivalency studies and they'll submit the drug application to sell into the market. So that's why the generic drugs are cheap. Cheap in the sense I'm speaking in terms of cost, not about the quality. I'm speaking in terms of cost. Okay, that's why generic drugs cost will be low when you compare to branded drugs, right? So how can we submit this one? What are the instructions that we will see in this topic, right? And the next topic is a good clinical practice. So like we have good laboratory practice when you are performing certain experiments in the lab. You'll be having, right, you have to wear the shoe, you have to wear apron, you have to wear hood, you need to have a gloves, or you need to have the specs, all those things, goggles, right? So like that. So how can we perform clinical trials? Here we are going to discuss about two things from two different organizations. Like first one is ICH-GCP, International Conference on Harmonization in Good Clinical Practice. So the ICH-GCP is a global thing where you have some of different companies, different countries, not company, different countries. They are together. They are following a certain set of guidelines, which is almost universally accepted, right? And the next one is CDSCO, Central Drug Standard Control Organization, which is the head authority, head company, or head organizations from the India. Whomever want to do clinical trials in India, they should get approval from this CDSCO, right? We will see guidelines and all those things how to practice in upcoming classes. And next one is guidelines implementation challenges. So we will say we have to follow this one, you have to follow that one, you should wear apron, you should wear this, you should do that, all those things, right? So that won't be a big challenges, but when you want to implement the guidelines really in industrial level, it is really a tough task. It's not that easy. See, when we say theoretically we can say anything, but when it comes to practical application it will be a problem, right? So in this thing we will be seeing what are the challenges we will be facing when we follow the guidelines. Okay. See, again, guidelines are not like Hitler rules. You have to do. You have to follow this one. See, guidelines are those things to set a standard. So if you are performing, if you are developing a formulation, this should be 99% quality should be there, or 85% quality should be there, or 98% quality should be there. Those things are guidelines. Okay. Next one is ethical guidelines. So those till now what I speak are those guidelines, and these are ethical guidelines in clinical research. So ethical guidelines means nothing but ethics. So showing concern on children, or when you can use children in the clinical trials, when you can use adults or aged people, when you can use women, or when you can use pregnant women in clinical trials. So all those ethical guidelines and all those things in clinical research we will see in this topic. Okay. Next one is IRB or IEC. IRB means Institutional Review Board or Independent Ethical Committee. So nothing but whenever you want to perform any clinical trials, okay, these organizations or these committees, IRB or IEC, should give permission for you. Okay. So in this topic, we will be discussing composition, responsibilities, and procedures. Means who will be a part of this IRB or IEC, like institutional review board or independent ethical committee, who will be the like co-founder, founder, chairman, all those things. And what are those people responsibilities? Nothing but taking the protocols, taking the applications, and seeing the quality and novelty of it, are either rejecting or giving permission, and their procedures we'll be seeing in this thing. So whenever you want to perform this clinical trials, this one is must in institution level. After this one, or company level, after this only we'll be going to submitting application to the government. Okay, next one is about regulatory environment. So regulatory environment is nothing but which are the committees plays a major role in while conducting clinical trials in different countries. Okay, so in India we have CDSCO, DCGA, ICMR, all those things, right? And in US we have USFDA and WHO, and in Europe we have European Free Trade Association and European Medical Agency. So like that, different countries have different organizations, different regulatory environment. So the thing we'll be seeing here, like to conduct the clinical trials, what are the guidelines, what are the application status, what is it, and all those things, right? Next one is roles and responsibilities of the people. So this, we can say these are the key people who plays a major role in clinical trials. Apart from subjects are nothing but the people who are volunteers. So apart from them, so these are the people. Like sponsor means who spends money on the trials. Next one, investigator means a doctor or a clinician, like we can say a pharmacist with certain clinical experience, or after Pharm D or after B Pharm, they have certain exposure to the clinical trials where they have experienced those kind of people. Next one is clinical research associates and clinical research coordinators. So the difference between these two is your clinical research coordinator and associate. So one category people like your CROs will stay in one side and they'll perform the experiments, and CRAs what they will do, they don't be in one clinical trial site. So clinical trials, it can be single center or multi-center. In case of multi-centers, your CRAs will be going to different centers and they'll be monitoring, whereas CR clinical research coordinators will be in only one site and they'll perform the experiments. Next one is regulatory authorities. Like previous topic, what we have seen about your IRB or IEC, we'll be seeing here composition of it, and the auditors. So auditors are the people who will come and visit your centers from the government side, and they'll be seeing what is the quality of the product you are producing, whether you are following the guidelines, good clinical practice or not. Next one is designing clinical study documents. Like whenever you want to do certain projects or experiments, so you need to have certain documents, right? You should have a protocol, means how or what is the process in which way you are going to do the clinical trials, and what is the first step, what is the second step, like that. Next one is a case recording form. So as I said, clinical research is almost 15 years of process, right? So you have to record entire data. So for that, we'll be having to collect the patient data, we'll be having that forms. Next one is informed consent form. Informed consent form is nothing but before doing a clinical trials, you will inform to the patient what you are going to do, how it is beneficial to the subject, and how it is beneficial to society, and how it is beneficial to the company. You will be explaining everything to the subject or the person, a volunteer. If he accepts, then only you will be taking him as a part of your clinical trials. That is informed consent form, means you are informing the thing and you're taking a signature of the volunteer saying that, okay, I'm being a part of this clinical trials as per my wish. No one has forced me. Like that, there'll be a certain guidelines and things you'll be signing in that, right? And next one is patient information leaflet. So patient information leaflet means whatever you'll be explaining to the patient in informed consent form. So that information may not be sufficient for the patient to understand certain time, where you'll be giving details about the drugs and what is what and what you're going to do. So that is patient information leaflet about the diet, healthcare, when you are taking this drug from clinical trials. So you should not eat these things. You should not go for driving. You should not do this. You should not do that. And you should not take other drugs whenever you are being a part of these clinical trials. So all those things will be there in here, right? And next thing is informed consent process. Like I said, informed consent form. Here it includes the process. Like previously, it used to be only documentation. Like just we have to sign. The subject has to sign in it. That's it. After explaining by the instructor or investigator. Nowadays, it has been said that the government has said that you have to take a video consent from starting till the end. So whenever a person come to you as a volunteer, you have to explain each and everything. All those each and everything should be a video copy will be there, and record also will be there, document also should be there. You should document that video and this copy of signing, right? And in between, if person don't want to be part, he can leave the trials in between. It is a subject wish. Next one is data management and its components. Means, so whatever data we are going to collect in case record form, like what we have seen in documents of clinical trials, in case record forms or CRFs or data collection forms. So those data, how to manage the data, right? So what happens when you have previously we used to have a paper, we used to enter in books and papers. Nowadays, along with papers and book, we have certain softwares and all, right? That is data. How you are going to manage the data, how you are going to keep the data safely. That is about clinical data management and its components. And the last thing about your safety monitoring in clinical trials. It's about the patient safety. So once the patient is in the clinical trials, the safety of the patient is held with the investigator and the sponsor. If anything happened to them, to subjects, then these people are responsible, right? So how you are going to keep the data of the patient securely and safely? How you are going to monitor the patients in the clinical trials? How safe or how effectively you are doing clinical trials, or how safely you are taking care of the patients? Everything will come under your safety monitoring in clinical trials. Yes, guys, that is about today's session. In next session, we'll be seeing introduction to clinical research, like the past, future, and the present. Sorry, past and present, and the future of clinical research and clinical trials, and how the clinical research has been evolved, and which is the first recorded clinical research or first recorded clinical trials. So there are a number of clinical trials way back. They are started long ago. But we will be seeing in next class some among those things which are recorded in the books. Right? See, if anything is not documented, not done. Right? So that's why I said which has been recorded in the books, that we'll be seeing from next class. Okay. Okay. Thank you, guys.